I hope you are doing well. This is Naeem Haider, and we are doing this amazing course of functional English. It's week 2 and lecture 1. And in today's class, we'll talk about subjects, predicates, and objects. And this concept is important to learn the sentence structure. So, before we move towards the types of sentences, it is important for us to understand the concept of subjects, predicates, and objects. So, as a warm up, I'm going to ask you two questions. What makes a sentence complete and what makes a sentence incomplete? So that is the question. These are the basic questions that we are going to explore in today's session. So what are the subjects? Subjects are basically nouns and pronouns that take verb. For example, Robert asked for his late work. It was late when we got home. Lime green is my favorite color. So Robert, it, lime green, these are the subjects in this sentence. Why? Because Robert is requiring a verb. Similarly, it was late, so was is the main verb here. And why we use this verb? Because we require it for the subject. Lime green is my favorite color. So lime green is a subject because it takes the main verb, and that is here. Now, what are the predicates? Predicates are basically the actions in the sentence. For example, Jane cried, Marcus was talking, the rain ended the baseball game. Now, we are talking about Jane in this sentence. In the second sentence, we are talking about Marcus, and in the third sentence, we are talking about the rain. So Jane is subject here, Marcus is subject here, the rain is subject here. Now whatever the information is there about Jane is basically the predicate, and whatever the information is there about Marcus in this sentence is the predicate. The rain ended the baseball game, so ended and whatever comes after that is the predicate of this sentence. So whatever the information is given in a sentence about the subject is basically the predicate. Now within a predicate we talk about the objects. So nouns that do not take predicates, the nouns that do not take verbs are basically the objects. Now subjects and objects both are nouns, but the difference between subject and object is that for the subject you need a verb to complete the sentence, but for the object you do not need any verb. So that is the basic difference between the subject and the object. For example, when we say he kicked the can, now he is subject here, and for this we require a verb. Whereas when we say he kicked the can, it can be Pepsi can or Coca-Cola can, whatever. Now this can is also a noun, but it does not require any verb. So that is basically the object of the sentence. And in other words, you can say that the object is basically the noun or the pronoun that receives the action of the verb. Let's look at some other example sentences. She threw the paper ball at Eric. Now she is the subject here, threw is the verb, paper ball is object. Similarly, at Eric, as a prepositional phrase. In the previous lecture we were talking about prepositions, and I told you that preposition never comes alone, it always comes with an object of preposition, and the object of preposition is always a noun or a pronoun. So here paper ball is basically the object of this sentence. Charity is important to humanity. Now charity, that's the subject, is the linking verb, important is a complement for charity, and to humanity, here humanity is the object of preposition to. Here Eric is the object of preposition at. Now, as I asked you the questions in the beginning of this, the lesson, that what makes a sentence complete and what makes a sentence incomplete. So let's get the answers to these questions. So each sentence needs a subject and a predicate in order to make itself complete. So a complete sentence always has a subject and a predicate. For example, imperative sentences, they do not need subjects. Subjects, they are always on the left of the sentence, and predicates are always on the right side of the sentence in English language. For example, she runs. So here she is the subject and runs is the predicate. When you have the subject and the predicate, so this means you have a complete sentence. Stop. Now it is also a complete sentence, although you cannot see any subject here. But since it is an imperative sentence, and in imperative sentences we do not need the subjects. There is a subject, but we do not use the subject in the sentence. I am. Bob went to school, but Kyle stayed home. Now here Bob is the sentence, went is the predicate. Similarly, Kyle is the subject and stayed is the predicate. So when you have the subject and the predicate, so this means you have a complete sentence. Now there can be another possibility where you have the compound subjects and the predicates. For example, sentences, they can have more than one subject and they can have more than one predicates as well. For example, when you say Chris and I studied, so Chris and I, it is the subject, but in subject you have basically compound subject. Like by compound subject I mean that you have two separate subjects, and when you combine them together with a coordinating conjunction, so that becomes a compound subject. Similarly, there can be one subject and compound predicates. For example, Jane swept and vacuumed. Now swept is one action and vacuumed is second action. So these actions, they together make a predicate, and that is a compound predicate. She and I ate pizza and watched movies. Now she and I, that is a compound subject, and ate pizza and watched movies, that is a compound predicate. Now, there can be some longer sentences. Sentences, they may have more than one set of subjects and more than one set of predicates. For example, when you say I went home and my mom yelled at me, so basically that is a longer sentence where you have once, this is first set of subject and predicate, and that is the second set of subject and predicate. In the next lecture we will talk about the types of the sentences, and there this concept will be cleared. She threw the ball at me, but I dropped it. Now she threw the ball at me, that is the first set, and I dropped it, that is the second set. I had a headache until I took a nap. Now I had a headache, that is the first set, and I took a nap, that is the second set. Now as a practice, I'm going to give you some sentences. Now what you need to do is that you need to write each sentence, you need to underline the subjects, you need to circle the predicates, and you need to double underline the objects. Okay, so there are 5 sentences, and I'm going to give you these 5 sentences to you as a quiz, as an activity to understand whether you have understood the concept or not. I'll show you the sentences, and you can write down your answers in the comment section of this video, or you can write them on your notebooks and you can show them to me during the class. So here are the sentences. Sean went home and did his homework. So that is the first sentence. You have to underline the subject, and you have to you have to underline the subjects, you have to circle the predicates, and you have to double underline the objects. That is the second sentence. It doesn't rain in the desert very much. That is the third sentence. My dog and I went to the lake and swam. Darren always picks law in Tekken. And Nike shoes are made by kids in sweatshops. So these are the 5 sentences that I'm going to give you as a homework activity. And with that, we are done with today's concept. Today we talked about the subjects, predicates, and objects, and in the next lecture we are going to talk about the types of sentences. If you have any question, you can leave your questions in the comment box, and for the whole course, you can check the description. In the description you will find a link, and that link will take you towards the whole course in a row. And if you have not watched the previous videos, please watch them and stay connected. I'll see you in the next lecture. Allah Hafiz.